Straight ahead on 12 News, a state fair staple. Meet the New Hope Band, who has people spinning into art. Then a push to help teens land jobs.
Young people need access to these first employment experiences
that could lead to future careers. But first, friends paint a much different picture of the former New Hope man reportedly killed fighting for a terrorist group. 12 News starts right now. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Are young suburban men being lured by terrorist groups? One community leader says yes.
Douglas McCain, a native of New Hope, was killed last weekend in Syria. U.S. officials say he was supporting a terrorist group. As Sonia Goins reports, one expert says terrorist organizations are not just targeting young men in the big city, but the suburbs, too.
I was real upset when I heard, and the last time my son and I both seen him was probably in 2008.
Shelley Chase can't believe her former neighbor and friend would be part of a terrorist group.
It wasn't like that growing up. He would never hurt no one. He would never see that coming ever.
33-year-old Douglas McCain was killed while fighting alongside the terrorist group ISIS. McCain used to live here at the Parkway Ridge Apartments in New Hope and was a neighbor of Chase.
We would have never thought anyone from here would ever, do that, I would think someone over south or northeast or something that would happen, but not here.
McCain isn't the only person with local ties linked to a terrorist group. Troy Castigar died in 2009 while fighting for Al-Shabaab. Both Castigar and McCain went to Cooper High School and were close friends.
First we were in shock, and at that it was someone else. It can't be.
This video surfaced more than a year ago of a Syrian fighter wearing a Cooper High School shirt.
They're reaching out any kids who are disillusioned, confused, vulnerable, and now, obviously, they're going everywhere, targeting all these kids.
Omar Jamal says even young men in the suburbs are at risk of being lured by terrorists.
No one is immune. We are in all this together.
Omar says that terrorists are pretty savvy, often using social media sites like Facebook and Twitter to go after their young victims.
And it's very effective. It's working for them because they're taking those kids away from their parents and putting them in harm's way.
In New Hope, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
The FBI says they are working with community leaders to identify young people who may be at risk of going overseas to fight with terrorist groups. Meanwhile, there are reports out that another American from Minnesota was also killed while fighting in Syria. So far, the U.S. State Department has not confirmed those reports.
Home builders sum up the month of August in one word: lackluster. Home building in the Twin Cities is down 16% compared to last August. That includes single-family and multifamily homes. So far this year, 2 local cities remain vital areas for new single-family home construction: Plymouth and Maple Grove. They trail only the cities of Lakeville, Woodbury, and Blaine. Well, when you think of first jobs for teens, chances are fast food or retail comes to mind.
But what about paid internships that could lead to a career? There is a major push underway right now in the Brooklands to help local teens find a career path. 16-year-old Ariana Wilson doesn't mind getting her hands wet with her first job at Kelly's Restaurant in Brooklyn Park.
I think any job like this is a good first job. It kind of gives you your footing in the workforce, and you see how it is, and you kind of see maybe even if you want to work in the restaurant business.
This small business likes to hire teens and provide those first job experiences that can be a stepping stone.
We like to get them before they have any other job. This way we can train them the way that we feel they should be trained.
No matter what time of day it is, we can get busy, and they have to step up. And stressful situations are found in any workplace.
First jobs often teach many things.
This is how you build your confidence and your ability to work with adults and feel comfortable, and this is where it begins.
Rebecca Gilligan with the Brooklyn Bridge Youth Alliance wants to help local teens find jobs that could lead to careers. They're in a fundraising push to launch a program that would place teens in paid summer internships in places like city government, local schools, and area businesses.
Lots of kids are familiar with the Burger King and the McDonald's jobs, and those are great jobs. But they are less familiar with the teacher apprenticeship or an opportunity at an automotive group to learn those skills and get to that next level.
For Ariana,
it's a really good first job.
This first job is a foot in the door, but she's interested in journalism as a career. And a program helping her and other teens find a paid internship could be the next step toward that path. If the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth raises $100,000 by the end of September, they will receive a matching grant to launch the youth employment program. If you want to help, we have more information set up at our website. It's 12.tv.
Anoka Hennepin schools will have a new tool this year to make sure kids aren't left on the sideline during recess. The playgrounds at all 24 district elementary schools now have so-called buddy benches. They're meant to help students find a playmate at recess. Social workers will ensure the benches work as intended.
Our training is going to talk about how anybody could be at a point in time when they need the buddy bench. You might run into a fight with friends, and now what are we going to do? Or your best friend is homesick today. So we're really just trying to normalize the fact that anybody could be in need of a new group of friends or even looking for that chance to expand their friendship circle.
The Anoka Hennepin Educational Foundation paid $13,000 to have the benches installed.
Visitors to Minnesota's largest corn maze will be in for a wild treat this year. Hidden amid this Brooklyn Park cornfield near Highway 169 and 109th Avenue North is a design of the Minnesota Wild logo. It's the centerpiece of Twin Cities Harvest Festival and Maze. Bert Bauman and his family decided to go with the hockey theme earlier this year, and they started prepping the field back in May.
It's all done by hand, so we draw on the paper and we transfer this grid paper design into the field. So it takes a little bit of thinking on the part of what you're doing, but it can be done without any major technology.
The festival opens September 20th and runs through October 26th. A portion of the proceeds will benefit the Minnesota Wild Foundation. Up next, we head to the State Fair for a different spin on art.
Then later in sports, Robbinsdale district rivals Armstrong and Cooper battle on the volleyball court.
But first, a partly soggy forecast. Rain showers linger into Friday. If you visited the State Fair 50 years ago, you could make a piece of spin art for 35 cents.
You could have also met the teenager who ran the Spin-A-Painting booth. Reporter Shannon Slatton introduces us to the New Hope man who still operates a State Fair staple.
We think it's fun.
At the Minnesota State Fair,
It's fun to do art with the kids.
you can always count on the favorites
We got a rag nearby.
spinning right back around.
He's been here for 51 years. I'm pretty sure I was 8 years old then. And I was doing this then, and I love it just as much then as
What do you think it is
now.
about?
David Perlman's passion isn't as much about spin art,
I've been fascinated with the fair forever since I was 14.
but it's about wanting to be a part of the great Minnesota get-together.
And my dad and I were always racking our brains and making applications and being told, no, thank you.
But then their luck turned when the spin booth went up for sale.
I said to my dad, what are we waiting for?
He was only 18 and sold the paintings for 35 cents.
There's not a whole lot of money, and it is a major, major exercise in mess control.
David Perlman has seen thousands of paintings through the years, and he says there are two types of painters.
There's process-oriented people and product-oriented. What that means is process-oriented, it's like the kids. They don't really care what it looks like. They just like doing it.
Then there are the grown-ups who want a product, like Dawn Topol.
I have stacks and stacks and stacks of spin art.
She's so serious about her State Fair tradition,
I did one last Thursday, too.
she brings her own paint and supplies.
Sometimes I do. Actually, sometimes I'll paste things on the piece of paper before I get here, but this year I just brought supplies and just threw it together.
It's people like Dawn that have kept David Perlman spinning much longer than other spin artists.
A few people come and go every year, but we're the only ones that seem to stay.
Surviving just about every scenario you can imagine.
It's like a circus parade up Carnes Avenue, and an elephant backed into our booth.
And earning him a spot in State Fair history, as you can see in the administration building.
There's a plaque for every concessionaire who's been here for more than 50 years. I got my name on the wall. That's a kick. That's just a kick.
At the State Fair, Shannon Slatton, 12 News.
You can spin your own art at the Spin a Painting booth. It's located on Carnes between the DNR building and the grandstand ramp. It's $4 for a painting and $7 for a Frisbee. I remember doing that when I was a kid.
You said.
I won't say how long ago, but it probably was 35 cents. Coming up, reviving your garden. Why the end of summer doesn't mean the end of color.
But first, our training camp report continues today with the Benilde-St. Margaret's football team. John Jacobson is in next with a preview of the Red Knights.
Well, there's a new place where rivals can meet up, and that's on the volleyball court.
Volleyball court, and a good start for Armstrong to their season. They've been in different conferences for about a decade now, but Robbinsdale rivals Armstrong and Cooper still play each other in many sports. They met up on the volleyball court in the season opener for both teams. Game one in this one. Short set goes to Abby Fireeisen. She pounded it at home there for the kill for Armstrong. Another perfect set by Kelsey Ripberger to Courtney Malum, and the Falcons win game one 25-16. Game two is tied early. Raina Dixon puts down the overpass for a Cooper point. The Hawks attacking again, but a nice block by Fireeisen wins the point for Armstrong. Madison Moling kills the free ball for the Falcons, and they win game two 25-13. Game three is all Armstrong. Nice serve by Fireeisen sets up the easy kill for Malum. Falcons win 25-6 and the match 3-0. The Benilde-St. Margaret's football team will have a new quarterback and receiving core this fall, but the Red Knights think they have some good pieces to build around and hope to repeat last year's run to the section final. Here's Jason Malillo with today's training camp report.
Step into him. Benilde-St. Margaret's offensive tackle Patrick Rooney missed all of last season with a knee injury, but he's healthy now and will be a stabilizing force for the Red Knights offense.
He's made it back 100% and he's doing great. Made some great plays on Saturday, so we're pretty excited.
Ready? Rich Bowen will take over as quarterback, replacing Keaton Studsrud, who accounted for 28 touchdowns in his senior season.
He doesn't have the experience that Keaton had, and he's been sitting for 2 years watching what's going on, and now it's his turn to shine, and he's taking advantage of it.
Bowen will get help from running backs Austin Robertson and Nate Barry. The pair combined to rush for more than 900 yards and 10 touchdowns last year.
We're two of the only returning skill position guys in the offense, so it's important for us. Yeah, we got to remember what we did last year because everybody else is new, so we got to make sure that we maintain what we did last year and have everybody else kind of follow that program.
And all the Red Knights playmakers should be bolstered by a hard-working offensive line.
You know, we kind of use the philosophy any idiot can run with a football. You know, it takes somebody special to play offensive line, go knock somebody down, play in, play out. So, you know, I tease them a little bit about that, but the running backs, they know what I'm talking about. I mean, they got to run hard every time and, you know, cut where they're supposed to cut, not just, you know, create all kinds of lanes when there's no lane.
On defense, BSM probably won't be the biggest or fastest group, but hope to counter those deficiencies by being a cohesive unit.
I think how we play together is kind of special. I wouldn't say we're an extremely fast team or an extremely strong team because, like, statistics-wise, we aren't, but the way we play together, I think we've all been playing together for a long time. We understand each other's game very well.
As usual, the Red Knights will line up against a lot of bigger schools this season, and they hope to continue a tradition of punching above their weight. Jason Malillo, 12 Sports.
Benilde-St. Margaret's was 7-3 last year, losing in the section final to De La Salle. The Red Knights return a total of 9 starters. This will be the 10th season for co-head coaches John Hanks and Pat Krieger, and it opens the season tonight, Thursday, at Holy Angels. Having success on the lake often depends on sticking with a certain location or a method of fishing. Terry Tuma explains in this week's Channel 12 Fishing Tip.
Duplication, a word to increase your success. What is duplication? Well, I was just out fishing and talked to a couple of younger people that were out camping, and they said, we need enough fish to eat for dinner tonight. That was part of their camping trip, obviously. And so we started talking about crappie fishing. That's what they were fishing. They were catching some smaller fish. Then all of a sudden, they caught a big crappie, a nice, definitely a keeper crappie. But you know what really sort of puzzled me is that they did not stay in that same spot. They just kept right on moving. And the same thing with walleye fishing. You pick up a walleye on a crankbait, maybe you're using lead core or whatever it is, and the general tendency just keep right on going. You need to turn around and come back, but that's where that location of those fish are at that exact time. And the same thing with duplication is how was I jigging for crappies, for instance, or bluegills? And was I using a lift and drop? Was I holding it? What type of a lift and drop was I using? Same thing with live bait tree. Were you moving the rod back and forth? These are all factors that we have to work with when we're talking about duplication. It doesn't take long to do this, looking at your depth finder to find exactly where you're at with your depth. And these are factors that we have to relate to if you want to catch more fish. And it's very simple to do. We just have to be aware of it. Be sure to tune in next week for another tip right here. Take a kid fishing this week.
Thanks, Terry. And coming up tomorrow, starting at 4, we'll have our first prep football highlights from week 1 for most of our teams. Some played in week 0, but yeah, big night tonight. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, John. Still ahead, an end of the summer growing revival.
We're in the garden next with ideas to help spruce up your containers.
Well, summer is winding down, but there's still a good 2 months left of the growing season.
So in the garden this week, we take a look at updating the flowers and other annuals you planted in pots last spring. If your container plants look like the ones on my deck, then they may be past their prime. They can get crowded to the point where they just don't look as good as they did a month ago.
This time of year, they're usually outgrowing their container that they're planted in, probably overgrown, really large. Not enough soil to continue to thrive the way they should.
Shayna Berg with Bachman's in Plymouth says with a few simple steps, you can update container plants and put an emphasis on fall colors.
There's a lot of great colors and textures that you can work with. Another thing to remember is you don't always need a lot of blooming, just to look for different tones that complement or contrast each other.
Step number 1, start with at least 50% new soil.
A lot of times the nutrients will wash through the container, and it's good to just add fresh.
Then what you plant for fall may be a little different than summer.
We have a thriller plant, a filler plant, and then a spiller.
Shayna likes to start with the big thriller, in this case a tall plant called Pennisetum grass.
A thriller is a tall showpiece, if you will, that would go either in the middle or the back of your planter.
Then choose a couple of so-called filler plants like celosia, that's the one with red flowers, or even ornamental kale.
And I like to add a lighter colored leaf too that will also contrast the darker as well. So I was going to tuck him right in the back.
Then comes the spiller, a plant that literally spills over the front of the container, in this case, coral bells.
Especially in fall, I think is a great time to plant because you do get all those rich colors.
Shayna also says, don't worry about putting in too many plants because the rest of the growing season is pretty short and they really won't grow that much. But just add water and you're set to go for
good.
2 more months probably.
All right.
That's it for now. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4. Community Corner is coming up next.